What is up, everyone? This is Mike again from Atlas Sound Design. Today in this video we're going to make Serum sound more analog. I broke it down at around 6 tips or 6 steps that you can do to make Serum just sound less sterile, less exact, give it some movement, and yeah, it'll be huge if you're making things like lo-fi, future bass, anything with really some lush melodic chords, but also if you want that vintage feel, like if you want to emulate like a Moog or some old synthesizer from like the early 80s or 90s or something like that. So yeah, I hope this video helps you guys out with just getting that certain sound that you're looking for. And if it does legitimately help you out, just like the video, comment, share it if you want. It's really the only way I know if I'm making good videos for you guys, if I just get that feedback. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get right into it. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. First things first, get yourself a new init preset patch. So let's go to init preset, and what we're going to do is we can keep the sawtooth. And my first point, though, for getting that analog style sound is to get custom wavetables. You don't have to pay for them. You can find them. I did pay a couple bucks for a multiplier. Actually, has got a great channel. You can buy these. You got some like the DX7, Korg, Moog, Juno, all really classic styled synths. And for example, let's just look at one of these. So yeah, these are just extracted from the Moog. Probably just plucked the audio out and then just made the wavetables out of them. So they're not exact, and that's what's kind of nice about them. It gives a little bit of texture that you can't get with a normal Serum stock stuff. Like over here, if we look at oscillator B, the default is just this perfect sawtooth. It's just too perfect almost. It almost sounds hollow, very sterile, not that nice. But if you want something with a little bit of grit or just some more texture, you can get these. Now you don't have to do this. This tutorial will be just using the stock wavetables that we got. So let's go ahead and turn on A and B. And now the first thing that we can do, let's just take a listen and see what it sounds like. So as you can see there, it's very, very exact. Does not sound good at all. So that's our base then. Now we're just going to build it up from there. First thing that we're going to do is, now keep your preset open. I'm going to go to our first little patch here and I'll walk you guys through everything that we're doing. So first things first is go ahead and on A and B, turn down the fine attunement here. Now this is in cents, and now cents make up full semitones. So minus or 7 cents or so is not a lot, but it's just enough to get those little nuances and little things that we want that analog gives. I mean, if you think about it, analog is all circuitry on a board, literally. And as they age and as they get older, they get these little nuances, and it's not exactly perfect. That's why analog sounds so good. So first thing we're going to do is put one of these, A or B, down a couple cents, and then the other one up a couple cents. Doesn't have to be exact what I have, but this is the idea. So they're not exactly the same. It's the first thing we're going to do. And what we're going to do after that is we're going to change the voices. Now, this brings you to our next thing here, is that the number of voices on a classic analog synths, they didn't have 12 voices per oscillator. Sometimes they just had one or just a few. The classic sounds that a lot of people hear, they use 5 or 7 voices. Those are the classic amount of voices. So let's go ahead and emulate that. So just bump up the voices. So we start on 1, just go up to 7 or 5. You choose. I mean, you can even go 3 or something else. And then turn down the detunement to right about 0.5. I mean, you can crank this up more if you want. But yeah, I like the sound of it right around in here for both. Again, make sure they're not exact, so don't mirror each synth. Make this one a little bit different. So maybe add the one that I bumped up 1 octave, just a little bit more detuned, so it has a little bit more width. Usually it's good for the higher octave ones. And so yeah, that's another thing we can do. That's the second thing. Third thing is if we were making chords, personal preference, I would just put 1 octave down, 1 up, just to fill out the the frequency spectrum just a little bit more. You don't have to, but I did. Now, moving along here, let's go ahead and go down to our LFO. So our LFO is going to be a simple, just up and down, very basic. Now we're going to map this to LFO 1 fine attunement that we just turn down on this one. We're going to take the same LFO and move it over to the fine detunement on oscillator B. And now what this is going to do, it's going to add movement to that fine detunement. So let's go ahead and listen to it as we have it right now. So here. So already we kind of have a nice texture already just by doing the fine detunement and adding those voices in. Much better than what we started with our bass. Now let's go ahead and activate these destinations, which is the fine detunement. Now what's going to happen as this LFO goes along here, it's going to increase the fine detunement and then go back down. Now I have a rate of about half a bar because I don't want to be too quick, because I really want that detunement to kind of swell around to get that texture. So let's go ahead and take a listen now with this LFO mapped on the fine detunements. Already it sounds very vintage, maybe a little too much, but this style is pretty much in for synthwave, vaporwave, all that stuff, even some lo-fi if you chop off the top there. So for me, it's a little bit much though, so what I am going to do is just pull this down so we don't get as much bit depth from like what we have it set at. I have it set around 25, 27 for each of these, doesn't have to be exact. And then, so let's turn that down and listen again. Yeah, so for me, I really like that. It's there, it's present, it's not too much, but it is very audible, like, hey, this isn't exactly perfect. And I think that is absolutely great. I think it gives that analog feel to me. And if you guys want to adjust that at all, you know the techniques now to get your own flavor and texture of what you want for your own track, or for your own chords, rather. So next thing, let's move along here to the filter. Now, I chose the MG because it's based after a Moog filter, just to cut off low 24. I didn't go with like 6 or 12 or anything like that. I went for 24, so it's a little bit harsher on the top end, and I have the cutoff pretty high up, right around 13,000 hertz. And I also took the resonance all the way down. The default is a little up. Analog synths don't really have that, so pull that resonance all the way down. Make sure A and B is selected, and then next thing we're going to do, just add a little bit of subtle movement, is we're going to go to another LFO. Click on LFO tool here, go to your folder, go to miscellaneous, and go to slight movement. This is going to give you this very subtle LFO that kind of just goes up and down over the course of whatever you choose with the rate here. Then map that to the cutoff, and then I just have a bit depth of, I just have it at 10 or so. And what this is going to do, it's going to very subtly change your high end, so it's not so sterile, so it's not so exact. It's these little things that's barely inaudible, but it will, with all these other small changes, add up to a nice big change. And yeah, moving along here, let's go over to our noise oscillator. Go ahead and turn that noise oscillator on. Usually a good idea to turn on key tracking. I have it up 12 as well. And what this is going to do is add a very slight noise hum almost to our serum patch. Let's go ahead and just listen to just that. Don't know if you can even hear it, but if you can, it is very much there. And it's going to add just a little bit of texture that we really want, because that is present on a lot of analog synths, especially if it's getting run through what's called like a tape, which gives it more texture. A lot of people used to run sounds through actual tape, so it's kind of emulating that. So let's go ahead and listen to everything again. Yeah, so we're sounding great so far. And this will be the base of our analog sounds with all kind of the tips and everything. I did want to also just touch on one thing as well, is that with digital versus analog, no matter what the outcome is of what we're doing here, the actual audio that's coming out, the sound that we're getting, will be not as smooth as digital, because digital is literally, if you zoom all the way in, it will be very, very smooth because it is analog. Now, digital, like coming out of Serum or your DAW, it will be broken up. If you were to look at the waveform, it might look smooth. If it was just a sine wave, it might look smooth. But if you zoom all the way in, it will be blocked out, like in chunks, in linear vertical chunks. that make up that smooth sine wave, for example, or whatever wave we have. So everything's broken up into these chunks. If you know your calculus, like Riemann sums and all that, it almost looks just like that, where it gets added up by these rectangular blocks. So yeah, just want to touch on that real quick. If anyone does ask, or even in the comments wants to get really nitty gritty about it, there is still a difference, but we're really just emulating here. Got the noise and yeah, some post processing that I think is really key, and that gives it some good texture as well. Now we'll go through this next. There is a free Max for Live device called Crap Cassette. And what this does is it's like a cassette. Yeah, it even says here, emulating the magical qualities of an old C90 compact cassette. It is really awesome. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that with that turned on. So you can see right away it sounds kind of weird, and I did emulate this little stop here, start stop. It's like a motor, the actual motor on the cassette kind of ramping up. So if we take a listen to the very beginning, you can hear that. So that's a really cool texture. Also, if you just drop this on and you're following along, you'll notice there's a lot of noise. So the hum starts up. I don't really like that. If you do, go for it. It might be good for some lo-fi stuff if you want to EQ it out after. Also, the tape noise, tone noise, and out noise are kind of some hissy, tapey sounds. I have these parameters set because it's not too much, but it is still there. And also, what's really nice is this tape age. You can actually make it sound a little bit more weathered if you ramp that up. Let's go ahead and take a listen by altering this tape age. So yeah, it makes it sound older, almost like it chops the top off a little bit there. And yeah, this is one more step, a little step here, just to get a little bit more toward that analog feel. And last but not least, I did add a little bit of reverb because whenever I make analog sounds, I just almost can't resist. So let's go ahead and just top it off with a little bit of reverb on the high end. Dry wet around 35, decay time a little bit long here. Took off the spinning chorus. Let's go ahead and take a listen all together now. So yeah, we got a really nice sound there. I'm gonna go ahead and let this play through a little bit so we can actually kind of just revel in the sound that we made together. So let's go ahead and listen. And yeah, there we got it, guys. So yeah, if you're wondering where I got this MIDI too, it just says Xanthos. Deadmau5 actually put out a MIDI pack, with a bunch of MIDI that you guys can just use. It's still free, so go ahead and search. If we go up here, I'll find the pack. It's called MIDI Mouse Chord Progressions. So yeah, go ahead and check it out. It is free, at least when I found it. And if you want to go one step further with me here, I did make a nice little plucky version of that same sound. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that. Now, all I did there was just go back in the serum patch, take this envelope 1, keep the attack the same, reduce or decay around 700 or so, take down the sustain note around negative 27 dB, and I did tighten up this curve here on the amp envelope. And then I just map that to the cutoff, and it's nothing extreme. It's very middle of the road, just 81 hertz with a bit depth of 46. Go all the way up there. So yeah, it sounds really good. If you want to add a little bit of resonance, you can back. And yeah, that is it. Sounds really good with the reverb. Yeah, and that's it for the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, just leave a comment. Any future sounds you want me to do, just let me know. And yeah, just like the video if you like it. Subscribe, please. I do appreciate it. And that's it, guys. Take care.